Hello friends, this video on diversity in living organisms part 25 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So with this we will end our discussion on the five kingdom classification, because we have already discussed about the five major kingdoms: Monera, Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia. And I hope that the explanation were pretty clear to you and you got some idea about the variety of living organisms which exist on this earth. Now at the very beginning of this lesson I told you that how the classification also helps in naming an organism scientifically, in scientific naming of a living organism. So here I will just introduce you with nomenclature. So what is nomenclature? It is a system of scientific naming. Now why do we need a scientific naming at all? Here you can see a couple of things on the screen. There's an elephant, there is a coconut tree, there is a whale, some vegetables, some fruits, and a boy standing there. Now for whatever I mentioned just now, I am telling this is an elephant. But let us suppose if I go to a country where people don't understand English, maybe they'll say, what is an elephant? I don't know what is elephant. So how do I express them what am I talking about? Right? Even in a single country, for example, in India itself, when you go to the South Indian states, you see that they speak different languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, right? Similarly, when you go to the North Indian states, the most commonly spoken languages become Hindi, Gujarati, Punjabi, and like that. So there are many ways of calling a particular thing. So science is something, or these scientific experiments with the living organisms is something which is happening worldwide. So in order to name things universally, scientific naming was brought into picture. Right? So for every living organism, there is a scientific name associated with it. So now the question is, okay, now I understood that why we need scientific naming, so that it is universally understood by everybody. Right? Now how do we give these scientific names to different objects? So what is the basis of nomenclature? Now the basis of nomenclature is the hierarchy. That means whatever object we are talking about, let us suppose if I am talking about this human being, so what should be the scientific name of a human being? Now for that we should know under which category that human being falls. So just now we spoke about the human beings. Human beings falls under the category of mammals. Mammals fall under the category of vertebrates. Vertebrates fall under the category of chordates. Chordates fall under the category of animalia. Right? So we should know that hierarchy. So once we know that hierarchy, we will be able to name the organism scientifically. So what is the hierarchy? We should know the kingdom it belongs to. We should know the phylum or division it belongs to. We should also know the class, the order, the family, the genus and the species. So what does this hierarchy actually tells? It tells that under each kingdom there are many phylum or division. For example, under the kingdom Animalia, we have different phylum like Chordata, Echinodermata, Mollusca, Nematoda. So they are the different phylum under the kingdom Animalia. Similarly, again, under each phylum, we have different classes. For example, under Chordata, we have so many classes like Mammalia, Pisces, reptiles, amphibia. So again, under each of these classes, we have order. So that means again, under Mammalia also, we have many different orders. Again, under each order, we have different families. Under each family, we have different genus, and under each genus, we have different species. So in this lesson, we have only spoken about the kingdoms and the phylum and the class. We have not spoken about the order, family, genus and species. Maybe you will study about them in the higher classes. So based on this, we actually name any object scientifically. For example, in this human being, it belongs to the kingdom Animalia. So the kingdom is Animalia, phylum is Chordata, class is Mammalia, order is Primates, family is Hominidae, genus is Homo and species is Sapiens. So similarly, if I want to name this mango scientifically, so it belongs to which kingdom? It belongs to Plantae because it is a plant. Under Plantae, it belongs to Angiospermae. It is an angiosperm. Under angiosperm, again, we have two classes, dicots and monocots. So it is a dicot. Again under dicot it is a sapindale, under that it is an anacardiaceae, under that it is mangifera, and under that the species is indica. So when I say species, I'm actually talking about, because see, in mango also you get different varieties of mango, right? So when the variety changes, the species name maybe it will get changed, right? So this is how we actually scientifically name different organisms. Now, how do we write scientific names? The question is, in the previous slide, we saw that if we start writing, if one scientific name becomes so large, that means the scientific name for a mango will become Plantae, Angiospermae, Dicotyledonous, Sapindales, Anacardiaceae, Mangifera indica. So it is a huge name, right? So it is not easy to remember this name. So how do we actually write scientific names? Instead of writing the entire hierarchy, we just shorten it. So only the genus and the species are mentioned. So we do not write the entire thing. For example, if I want to write the scientific name of mango, we just mention the genus, that is Mangifera, and the species, that is Indica. If we want to write the scientific name of a human being, we just write the genus, that is Homo, and the species, that is Sapiens. And there are certain conventions which are to be followed in writing the scientific names. Genus name begins with a capital letter. Species name begins with a small letter. So let us suppose if I want to write the human beings, it is Homo sapiens. So Homo should start with, Homo is the genus name, so it should start with a capital letter. Sapiens is the species name, so it should start with a small letter. Scientific name should be in italics when printed. So if we print something, then the scientific name should be in italics. That means it should be little bent. Scientific name should be underlined when handwritten, and if we are writing it, it is not printed, then it should be underlined. So this is how we would write the scientific name of human beings. So this is how we will write the scientific name of a mango. Mangifera indica. So now you understand how we write scientific names of different living organisms. Now currently at this stage we will not discuss too much in detail about the scientific names. But as you go to your higher classes, we will talk about scientific names in even more detail. So with this, I will end my discussion on nomenclature. So it is time to look at some of the questions. Now, based on whatever we have studied so far, can you think about this? How would you choose between two characteristics to be used for developing a hierarchy in classification? That means, let us suppose if you have to classify objects, how would you know that from where you should start your classification? For example, in this case also, the first classification started with kingdoms, right? First, the living organisms were divided into 5 kingdoms. Then each kingdom was divided into phylum. Then each phylum got divided into classes. So how did this start? I mean, how would you determine that hierarchy? I already explained this a couple of times, that whenever we want to classify things, we need to look for the basis for that classification. On what basis are we going to classify things? And what did we observe? We observed that the more basic characteristic of the two characteristics should be considered for developing a hierarchy in classification. So the more basic characteristics, so if you have two characteristics, the more basic one should be taken into consideration. Let us take the example which I had taken before also. So here if you see, if we want to classify these vegetables which were present there, how will we classify? There are two options. Let us suppose the two characteristics. One option is that we do them on the basis of color, and other option is that we do them on the basis of their nature, the nature of vegetable it is. Now if we separate them on the basis of color, what will happen? This pepper, maybe this carrot, they will be in the same group. Now you see, pepper and carrot are totally different things, but still they will come under the same group. And this pepper will fall under the same group, and this pepper and the cabbages will fall under the same group. But this is not the correct way of classification, because this is not the basic characteristic. What is the basic characteristic? First we have to see, color is the secondary one. First we have to see what it is. So the nature of the vegetable. So depending upon the nature, we have classified the peppers together, we classified the cabbages together, we classified the carrots together. So this was the first hierarchy. So the first hierarchy was done based on the nature of the vegetable. Now if I want to subclassify further, then maybe color will play a role, because in this case now the nature of the vegetable is same for all of them. So what is different? The only different thing is color. So color will become the more basic characteristic now for the second level of classification, right? So similarly, if we want to distinguish between a tree and a man, so what is a very basic characteristic you think? Trees cannot move and man can move, right? So this is a very basic characteristic by which you can divide objects into two classes. One is plants and one is animals. Plants cannot move and animals can move. So the more basic characteristic of the two should always be considered for developing a hierarchy in classification. Let us have another question to think upon. Explain how animals in vertebrata are classified into further subgroups. So again, this is asking you to find out the basis of classification or basis of subclassification in vertebrates. As I told you, in what were vertebrates? Vertebrates are those chordates who have a notochord. Along with the notochord, they have a dorsal nerve cord, which later develops into a brain and a spinal cord. Now, there were a couple of different types of animals under this category. So we had fishes, we had birds, we had human beings, we had animals falling under this category. But we saw that their body structure and body design are not exactly the same. So what was our basis of classification? The basis of classification was the body design and the complexity of body structures and their function. When I say body design, I mean whether they have 4 limbs or not, whether they have fins or not, whether they have a muscular tail or not. So that all comes under body design. When I say complexity of body structures and their function, I am talking about the different organs. For example, heart. Heart is present in all of the 3 things which you are seeing on the screen. Fishes have a heart, even the frog has a heart, even a human being has a heart. But the heart in fishes is 2-chambered. It is 3-chambered in case of a frog and it is 4-chambered in case of a human being. So the complexity of the body structure is increasing. Now as the complexity increases, their function also starts differing a bit. Right? Similarly, in case of fishes, we have scales. So here we have a 2-chambered heart. Here we have a 3-chambered heart. And here we have a 4-chambered heart. So in fishes, on the skin, what do we have? We have scales. In case of a frog, what do we have on skin? We have the mucus glands. In case of human beings, what do we have? We have hairs and sweat glands. Right? So even though they all fall under the category of vertebrates, their body designs are different, their complexity of the body structures and also their functions are also different. Right? For example, in fishes we have scales, and the purpose of scales is protection and forward movement of the fishes. In case of frogs we have mucus glands, but their purpose is different. Their function is to make the skin slimy and slippery. In case of man, again we have hair and sweat glands. They again have a different purpose altogether. Hair is used for some extent for protection. Sweat glands are used to maintain the internal body temperature when the external surrounding temperature is very hot, right? So this is how we can look at the basis of classification. So I hope that this lesson would have helped you in understanding the concepts of classifying the variety of living organisms existing on this earth, and please use these concepts, and as far as remembering the names are concerned, please try to understand the meaning of each of the names so that they help you to remember what actually they are. So see you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.